So 10 o'clock. So let's get started. Okay. So I guess you can see my screen. So let's. So we talked about indexing last week. I don't know if any of you already started discussing with your parents to see which one would be the best. But I still wants to keep this slide because I want you start,
Yeah, I've
investing.
slowly started talking to my family about what we should invest in.
Okay. So yeah, just start with your savings so you get the experience of the emotional part. You could also put it in Yahoo Finance and watch your portfolio um, once in a week. I don't recommend you to watch it every day, then you get crazy, but once in a week or once in a month, so you get the get the feel of it. uh, Maybe I can show you just a second. So if you go to finance.yahoo.com, you could actually create a your own virtual portfolio. So then you can track it if you want to. I don't want to log in here. I'm just trying to see if I can show it without login. So basically what you can do is you can create a email ID, and then you can create your own virtual portfolio once you invested through your fathers or your parents. Then what you can do is you can go, like for example, this is the ticker symbol I told you that uh, that you can search with the company. So I'm going and searching this ticker symbol. Okay, it doesn't show up here in the finance. Okay, so then you can easily add that to your portfolio if you bought those index funds, and then you can track it. That's one way to track it. Other way to track it is as I show you. um, Let me see that. Yes, as I show you on Google Sheets, we did for our, yeah, last maybe invested for our portfolio, right? You could also track it there. So for example, uh, you could go to here as an example, and suppose if you invested in this fund, and then you can Google Sheets has a fantastic feature called you can call real-time prices. For example, this is the function I used. Google Finance, one of the parameter is the ticker symbol of the, okay, let me zoom out so this bit so you can see it. So if you see here, I'm using Google Sheets to track my invested portfolio. Okay, so for example, if I invested, if you invested in one of these index funds, you can keep the index fund name and the ticker name like this one, and then Google Sheets has this beautiful feature called Google Finance. It can get the real-time price of the whatever the ticker symbol you entered. So here I'm asking Google Finance to go and get the HDFC Index Fund 50 price. You can get a lot of other things. I want only the price. There are multiple parameters you can get it from Google Finance. Then you can track, you can check your buy price. You can enter your buy price, number of shares you own, and then you can track how your shares are doing. The reason I ask you to track is then you get the emotional when you see that when you lost the money, you would realize how you are behaving. Learning is different, experiencing is different, right? Watching somebody making chicken biryani in YouTube channel is different than eating the real chicken biryani at home. um, that's different. Same with investing, right? You can hear me talk for weeks, and then you can see how we invested until you put your own money and experience the emotional part. You're not going to experience it. It's like watching somebody making and eating a chicken biryani in YouTube channel. So this is some that's the reason I suggest you to start, and then once you invested some amount, then you can track using Google Sheets, like how I did for our portfolio. So you could take this formula, same template, and create your own, and then track it. Okay. So this is just an inspiration. You have two ways to do it. One is Yahoo Finance, another one is Google Sheet. So let's go back. So this is what different indexes you can consider, and then you decide based on. So then we talked about this psychological things for last couple of weeks. Instant gratification and delayed gratification. I want to share my experiences. As I told you, once you learn this psychological biases, you have to reflect on your own behavior and find your own findings of those biases, how you are tackling those biases on your daily life. I'll share my own biases, then you could reflect how I use these tools on daily basis, and then you could also observe yourself, your own behavior, and try to see how. So for example, instant gratification versus delayed gratification. I have this practice of doing daily workouts. I've been doing it for last 15 months, and I want to continue. And this is not challenge anymore now, but at the beginning when I started doing workouts, instant gratification versus delayed gratification always plays a role. If weather is not good, windy and raining, then your brain always says, hey Harry, why do you want to go for a walk today or cycling today? Let's take, watch something fun and do something else. But I always thought about the delayed gratification. I know the benefits in the long term, and that always pushed me to go for a walk or do cycling. So I did not miss even single day for last 15 months. So this is a fight I do with my own brain every day. This is just one example for workouts. Same with as I told you, I started one New Year resolution this year. I want to write my thinking, thought process every day in a journal, and I managed to do it until today. But sometimes I could not do it on the same day. I have to do it 2 days in a row because of this instant gratification, delayed gratification that is pushing me. So that's something you would all experience this on daily basis. Just watch out. Do you want to share any of your experience, or did you started thinking about these things on your daily basis when you face a decision or anything that you are going through, to see if any of this is the symptoms of your behavior? Okay. If
I can't really think of anything.
Sorry.
I can't really think of anything that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So just uh, try to collect any examples you can get it from your own life, then it will stick in your brain for a lifelong, rather than just listening and understanding. It's again, experiencing versus just learning by book or by presentation. That won't help. You need to experience, you need to observe this psychological biases, especially you need to experience them. There are no formulas, there is no answers, it's all your experiences. System one, system two thinking, this I face almost every week or month. So I have this network of people, and some people come with an investing idea. They say, hey Hari, this is a great real estate investment in India, do you want to invest? Then I get excited when I hear, when I talk to my friends or family members when they share these ideas for investment. So that's when I get excited. That's my system one brain, right? It wants to it's a quick decision maker who gets excited. And it's also based on who is sharing those ideas. If he's my close friend, I know him for last 20 years, then if he is sharing something, I feel, okay, I need to listen and I should at least give a positive feedback. That's my system one answering him when I'm talking to him or her regarding the investment he is sharing with me. Then I always say, okay, let me think over this idea you told me. It looks exciting. I'll come back to you in a week time. I always say this, or couple of days. The reason I say that is I know my system one is playing when my close friend, my close family member sharing this idea, great idea, which they think is a great idea. But then I know that system one is easy to be fooled, and I don't want to commit anything. So I say 2 days, because then my system two would think about the investing idea, whatever the idea that is being shared by a friend. Then after 2 days or 1 week, 99% of time I would reject the idea. Trust me, this is what happening with me for last couple of years. I experience this on weekly and monthly basis. So system one, system two thinking is playing a key role in my daily life, especially in investing life. I would say it's a mix. And yeah, I get these calls. I have a good network of people who invest in different asset classes, real estate, stock market, and other areas. And then they always comes and share with me the ideas. Then I always tell them, let me think over this idea. I'll tell them I'll sleep over this idea and come back with my feedback if I really want to invest or I want to say no thanks. So 99% when I give this input to my system 2 thinking, my system 2 brain, which does the analytical reasoning and all those things, logical thinking, then 99.5% I reject those ideas. So this is something I use on daily basis, and you should also think of this system 1, system 2. And IKEA effect and IKEA psychological traps. As I told you, I avoid going to IKEA. Sometimes, if you know there are so many traps, it's better to avoid. Even if I want to go to IKEA, I just pick what exactly I want to buy, and I write the number what I want to buy, and just go and pick that one without stopping and pondering around, because then I may fall into these traps, right? Somebody shared in our group that one of his daughter, when she went to IKEA, she also observed another trap. This kids play area. She, as for her, it's also a kind of a trap that parents can leave their kids in the play area and then do shopping. So that's also one another trap, which was a very good observation from one of the daughter in our group. So you need to observe, and once you know them, you either avoid them, or you build a tools against those policies, right? So this is and social comparison bias. I used to fall trap of this, but not anymore, because I know there is no value in this bias, and it's not going to help me in my life. So I try to. I think I became wiser about this bias. I don't fall into social comparison bias. I know many of my friends who are wealthy than me, better job than me. They are doing quite well in life, but I don't want to compare with them, because I don't want their entire life. I don't want to just to see their big house or nice car. I want to see their entire life. When I look at their entire life, I realize my life is better than them. I am happy with my life. Just because for a nice car or nice big house, I don't want to compare with somebody else. So this I would say overcome, but I I I face this regularly. So, but I became wiser about this bias. Greediness. Um, I I overcome this with the tool called the low expectation. So this is something you could also use. I designed life in a way that I don't expect too much from anything. So, if I made an investment, I don't expect 30% return, 24% return. I expect a bare minimum return. Whatever fixed deposit returns are, I expect 1-2% more than that. That way, I'm avoiding this greediness, because if you have high expectations, that's driven by the greediness. If you don't reach those expectations, then you fall into this unhappy, and then you feel sad about this, and then you actually feel unhappy for certain period of time until you overcome it. So the way I am avoiding this greediness is I live a low expected life. I don't want high expectations from my life. Then I'll feel trap of this unhappiness. And in investing, I do the same. I When I invest, I try to expect low, rather than investing it for a high returns. That way, even if I don't get high returns, I'm not happy. I'm not sad about it. Ego, it pops up time to time in my daily life, but I try to overcome this with humbleness and imagining how small we are in this world. So I try to overcome this with when I compare with better people than me. When I look at my mentors, I look at them and see how much they achieved. Comparing to them, I'm nowhere. So I don't want to get into ego. So I try to, but it pops up um, quite often. Ego is something you can't avoid. Once you achieved some success, ego comes as a bonus along with the success. So you have to watch out ego, and you need to be humble, and you need to you should not give too much credit to your skills, because it's also luck that plays in a role, and uh, it's also where you born and where you are living, that also plays a role in your whatever success you achieved. So don't fall into this ego trap, thinking that it's your skill and your hard work. It's pure luck, and it's also based on your based on how much you can achieve more. So you can avoid it. So my suggestion for all of you, try to observe these concepts and try to observe around you. If you see any of these behaviors popping either in your own behavior or in somebody else's behavior, then you try to observe and collect stories. Once you collect those stories, then you understand these concepts bit more, and then you build your memory muscle for this to avoid these traps. Any questions before we go to the jealous and envy?
Nope.
Okay, so jealous, I took again Oxford dictionary definition. I gave Telugu. How many of you speak Telugu here? I see quite a lot of Telugu guys here today. Yeah. Okay. So Irsha is a Telugu version of jealous. I don't know if you came across this word Irsha. Irsha is a Telugu translation of jealous. So unhappy and angry because someone has something that you want. Um, this is jealous, and unhappy or slightly angry because you wish you had someone else qualities, advantage, or success. These are Oxford Dictionary definitions of jealous. I guess you all know the experience of jealous. You probably fall trap of this jealous, but this is the most dangerous bias or a sign we have in our brain, which you should watch out and see how you can overcome this. The problem with jealousy is it's doing more damage to our brain than adding any value to our life. That's the biggest problem. That's the reason after ego, jealous, and envy, after ego, jealous, and envy plays the top three roles. They got the top 1, 2, 3 ranks in all the psychological biases we have. Jealousy is on the top second, I would say. That damages our brain a lot than giving any benefit to to our brain. So let's. I don't want to say anything more. I took three of my role models or mentors. One is Charlie Munger, who is 98 years old, who talks about jealous and envy a better way than me. And then another guy is Ravikant. He is Indian origin, but moved to New York, and he's a venture capitalist, and he also have this practical advice to the life, which I liked more. So let's hear from Ravikant as well as Munish Pobrai. He is also Indian origin but moved to US, and he also um, shares what envy and what ego, why we should avoid it. So let's hear from these three gurus or mentors what they say about ego and uh, jealous and envy. Okay.
Bias from envy, jealousy. Well, envy, jealousy made what, 2 out of the 10 commandments? Those of you who have raised siblings, you know about or tried to run a law firm or investment bank or even a faculty. I've heard Warren say a half a dozen times it's not greed that drives the world, but envy. Here again, you go through the psychology survey courses, and you go to the index, envy, jealousy, 1,000-page book. It's blank. There's some blind spots in academia, but it's an enormously powerful thing, and it operates to a considerable extent on the subconscious level. And anybody who doesn't understand it is taking on defects he shouldn't have.
So Charlie Munger, as you can see from the video, he gave this talk in 1995. Psychological biases. Until then, these were the subjects taught in psychology course, academy psychology course, but nobody used it in real life. But Charlie Munger has been using this psychological biases all his career, and then he gave this presentation. Now he's 98. Imagine 25 years ago. So he must gave this presentation when he was in early 70, in his age 70, and by then he was already billionaire. He was super rich and he made a lot of money. And then he says he introduced the world, investing world, especially human biases. How human biases um, can influence on the decisions of investing and finance. So since then it became a quite common in investing world. Any investing discussions that you see, you always come across this biases. Are you avoiding the biases for your investing decision? So that's the talk. You could also find it in YouTube. That's the talk he gave it in 1995. So let's also listen to Ravikant.
Turn it off. Jealousy was a very hard emotion for me to overcome. When I was young, I had a lot of jealousy in me. And by, I learned to get rid of it, and it still crops up every now and then. But it's such a poisonous emotion because at the end of the day, you're no better off. You're unhappier, and the person you're jealous of is still successful or good looking or whatever they are. But the real breakthrough was when I realized at a personal fundamental level. I mean, the problem with these kinds of podcasts is I can give glib answers all day long, but you have to discover your own personal answer, because your personal answer is going to be different than mine. It'll speak to you. But the one that I discovered that spoke to me was the day I realized that all of these people that I was jealous of, I couldn't just cherry pick and choose little aspects of their life. I couldn't say, I want his body, I want her money, I want his personality. You have to be that person. Do you want to actually be that person with all of their reactions, their desires, their family, their happiness level, their outlook on life, their self-image? And if you're not willing to do a wholesale 24/7, 100% swap with who that person is, then there's no point in being jealous.
I think that's a
And
great
so
way to look at it.
Once I came to that realization, jealousy sort of faded away because I don't want to be anybody else. I'm perfectly happy being me. And by the way, even that is under my control, to be happy being me. It's just there's no social rewards for it.
Is it too fast for you? Do you understood what he was saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he basically said that um he's jealous because he wants a part of the person that makes him cool or good. But if he really wants that part of him, then you should think if he wants his whole life. But
exactly.
if it's not worth it to have his whole life, then there's no point of being jealous.
Exactly. Once you realize this one, then that's a tool against jealous. When you fall into jealous trap next time, when jealous pops up in your brain, you should always think, hey, should I swap whole life with him, whomever I'm jealousing with a body, money, or whatever? Then you would realize, no, you don't want to do that. And then your jealous fades away, as he explained. So this is one of the guy who is really living life like us and giving his own experiences openly and with examples. That's a beautiful way of looking at jealous and how can you avoid jealous. Do you want to listen it again, or are you good? I know it was a bit fast. I should have reduced the speed, but I think it's okay.
But what was the video though? We couldn't see someone swimming, right? The video in the background. What was that?
Oh, you are you not? Oh, you mean this?
In the video that we just watched,
Yeah,
I could hear him, but what was happening in the background?
yeah, it's a podcast. So he gave this famous podcast. It's a 2.5 hours podcast. In this podcast, you know what is podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's podcast is the latest version of radio in the modern world via internet and mobiles, right? It's a old way we used to call radio. Now in new world we call it is podcast. So he gave this 2.5 hours talk in one of the podcasts that became super famous, and there he talks about all the prospects of life. I just extracted only jealous because that's important for this session. So, and remember all the environments we build around us, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, when you go to school,
YouTube.
you get this jealous all the way around, right? Especially Facebook, people always post their happy moments, and we feel that we are not as happy as them and we feel jealous. So, and you also experience this, somebody is good looking than you, somebody is smarter than you, somebody is wealthier than you, somebody wearing better, whatever, skillful than you in sports, they are better than you get this jealous popping up in your brain, and then you should always think about this tool, how you could overcome this. And yeah, try to avoid social media, so you could avoid this jealous, and also try to think of this tool. And it's such a harmful mm, mm, behavior in our brain. It does a lot bad to our brain than good. That's what he was saying. It's such a bad human behavior that can damage their own life. If you surround or to jealous, there is always chance that you would be jealous of something. If you surrender yourself to jealous, then you would never be happy, though you have better life, you living in better country, comparing to somebody living in Africa war zone. You imagine somebody living in Afghanistan now, right? Comparing that with somebody living in India or in Denmark. So so you should always think from the perspective of okay. So let's also, and I definitely recommend the Ravikant podcast. Maybe I can find it. Ravikant, Novel Ravikant is his name. And yeah, this is the podcast I was talking. I can share it in YouTube, sorry, WhatsApp group. This is 2 hours 11 minutes, and you see how many likes he got. And look at the viewers. Yeah, how many people watch this. So it's such a thoughtful, mind-blowing discussion. You can't grasp all this content in one go. I listen myself at least 3-4 times just to understand what he's talking. So it takes time, but remember this guy. And if you are confused about life, if you want to get a bit clarity, just listen to this guy. He gives some good ideas that you could think of. Okay, I'll share that. So yeah, I think Truno, you are asking where was it? So it's part of this podcast. So this is 2
Okay.
hours 11 minutes, and then
Is it
I took
Indian?
a
No, it's American, right? Yeah,
yeah.
because
He's in
he moved to America.
yeah. He born in India but moved to America. Yes. Okay, let's look at one more guy, Monish Pobrai. He's also born in India, moved to America. So let's see what he's saying about envy and ego.
And I just wanted to actually spend a minute or two on Rajat, because I think that even if you don't get any value from the presentation I'm making, I think there's you can say a Shakespearean value in some of the events that have transpired. And, my heroes, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, say that envy is one of the worst of all the human vices that you can have. In fact, many other human vices, you can get an upside um, from having those vices. But with envy, if you have envy towards anybody, all that's going to happen is you're going to feel bad. And in the case of Rajat, he was off the chart successful, but his downfall was led by two things. I think the two traits, basic human traits. And one was envy. He was envious of a person who was much more successful than him, at least on paper, and much less capable than him, which is probably true. And the second is so envy is a very bad human trait. And the second is ego. And ego is nothing but a false sense of self. So, all of us are ashes and dust. We came from ashes and dust, and we will be ashes and dust. And it's useful to remember that. Or, like a good friend of mine always says, everyone burps and farts. So basically, if you were to basically eliminate envy from your life, and if you were to eliminate as much as you can ego, you're very far along the path of doing quite well.
So he's giving an example of Rajat, the guy who did a wrong trade in India, sorry, in US, and he was put in jail and he committed suicide or he died. So this Rajat, I can get the story.
What was the guy's name? Oh,
Rajat,
Rajat.
yeah. So he was a very famous guy. He was part of a big boards, big companies boards, board of directors, and he fall into envy and ego bias. He wants to make more money. When you are part of a board of director, you get some inside information about company, right? If they are doing some R&D or some product that may become quite famous, or they think so he used that inside information and traded the stock in the stock market, and he got caught in that trade, though he made 30 or 40 million US dollars, but he was been caught and he's been penalized 120 or 150 million dollars, and he sent to jail, and all his assets been captured, all his reputation he built. He did this trade when he was in 65. So he built, he was a hardworking guy, moved to US, built it from scratch. He was wealthier and he made a lot of millions over the years. So when he was 62, he was already millionaire, 100 or 80 million dollars. But this guy, you remember, I always tell
But what did he
anything.
do?
So he
What did he
did a
do wrong?
inside trading. So he was because he became quite known in the financial markets. So he was appointed into some of the companies' board of directors. Companies are above the CEO. You have somebody called board of directors who watches the behavior of CEO. That's the structure of all the companies. If you take Apple, Amazon, any company in the world, public traded company, they have board of directors on top of CEO who watches the behavior and actions of the CEO, and they are in the interest of investors like you and me who are investing in the company. So he was the board of director in many companies. In one of the company, he got to know some inside information that the company probably have some good quarter results that are coming up in next week, and so he called his friend and he asked him to trade buy shares of that company, because he knows when the company releases the good results next week, the share value will go up 3-4%. And they did that trade and he made about 60 or 30 million dollars. I don't remember the exact count, but then he was caught as part of inside trading. It's illegal. You are not supposed to, nobody's supposed to do that.
So what
um,
did he trade?
so he traded shares. So he have a friend who is a broker. He called him after the meeting and told him, hey, buy some millions of shares of this company, because
Of which
I know,
company?
I
Of
don't
his
remember.
company.
Yeah, the company where he's board of director.
Ah, okay.
So I'll give you an example. For example, if I'm the board of director of Nova Nordisk, and I know Nova Nordisk going to give next week a good results, and
Yeah,
I'm a board of director, so I know that it's inside information.
yeah.
With that information, I should not
Yeah. It's information that you're only the like the only the top members are allowed to know. Like it's yeah,
confidential information. Yes,
yeah.
you should not share with anybody else, and you should not definitely use that information against your benefit. So this guy, he went and called his broker friend and told him, hey, I got to know this info, you go and buy this
So
company.
he was helping his friend.
No, it's not it's on his own account. It's
Oh, so he's telling his friend to buy it on his account.
exactly. And even if he is a friend, you should not supposed to disclose such a confidential information.
And then
uh,
how did he get caught?
He got caught when the SEC, there is this security exchange body who monitors all the behaviors of the, you know, big board of directors. They caught there is a abnormal behavior of number of shares bought by somebody in on a given day and sold after the results, and then they backtracked it.
But that could be a coincidence.
Yeah, then they had a evidence.
And then they said it was his account.
Yeah.
So then they know that he couldn't have bought it, so he must have made his friend buy it. Right.
Yes.
So basically they saw that there was too many shares bought on that day, so then they tracked who bought it, and then
Yes.
he got caught.
Yes.
What was his
And
full name?
I'll find out. I don't remember his full name. I'll share the story and everything. But the point I'm saying here, point of what Monish was saying is, imagine a guy moved to US, build a reputation for 40 years, and for some additional millions, after some millions, no additional money will make you happier. Or but this guy, because of ego and envy, he have some of his friends who are richer than him. He wants to become more richer than them, hence his ego and envy played, and he did this action that ruined his life, his reputation, and his wealth. So this is something you need to remember, and what these emotions can do to a person, especially envy, ego, and jealous.
Yeah, his name is Rajat Gupta.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Rajat Gupta, exactly. And you must also find stories about he was quite a famous guy. We
But he
used to
said he
give
was
him award.
CEO.
He was board of director, one of the company. I don't know which company he did the inside trading. He was board of director in many companies, and so that's teaching you lesson for your life, right? Imagine you build a reputation all your life, and then you fall into trap of envy, jealous, and ego, and you do some stupid mistake that ruins your whole life, right? So that's the reason you should check your envy, ego, and jealous. They are doing more damage than any benefit. So it's so, and there are many examples like them. You heard Volkswagen did this thing in US, right, for a emission. So they were fooling US government, and then they got caught, and then they paid 8 billion euros as a fine. They were also falling to this trap of envy, jealous, and ego, because they had a ego of becoming the most sold cars in US, because Toyota was leading it, and then these guys were driving that, and then they were bending rules, and then they got caught, and then their whole reputation, as well as the share value and the penalties they paid. So this behavior pops up in our daily life. If you read the news and if you see the events around you, you would see the behavior. Some people who are well off in their life doing stupid things, and then going out of scene or out of a picture. It's just because of this psychological traps. Any questions? Okay, so let's go to the next topic, envy, and again let's hear from Ravikant what he says about. Oh, so now you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you do murder, then you go to jail for like 15 years minimum. But he did a big crime, and he only went to jail for 2 years.
Yeah, but you are thinking crime from the jail point of view, but you should think is a reputation.
Wasn't it 11 years?
No, it said 2 years, I think, on Google.
No, it's more than 2 years. I
I
guess
think it was
11.
11. I looked
11.
in another.
Wikipedia it said 2 years.
Yeah.
And then he
I think
got
that's
house arrested
Yeah.
in 2016.
Weeks.
I looked in another thing, like another
Yeah,
website. I think the
it says
CNBC.
he was in prison for 19 months.
What does house arrested mean?
Well, you have to stay. You have to
But
stay in your house, and then you can't go out.
Yes, you are not supposed to talk to anybody. You are not supposed to meet anybody. You should not attend
Basically,
any.
like
Yep.
confinement.
Yeah. The reason he got that is because he must have paid some lobbying and penalties to get this exception because he can't live in jail anymore. Living in house probably thought better. So he must. But the point is, it's not about the jail or it's not about what punishment he got. The point is, he put his whole life reputation at a stake for the things which he is not going to enjoy anymore. See, once you reached certain point, additional money will not bring you happiness. So let's say you got 10 million Danish krone. After 10 million Danish krone, if you go become 100 million Danish krone, it does not bring you more happy. It does not brings you more healthy body. It does not brings you more friends. So even this guy, he knows this, but he fall into the trap of this ego, jealous and envy since because his friends are more richer than him and it's crazy to think about it, but you see these cases again and again pops up in your life that people who are hardworking build a reputation all his life, then ruin that everything. That's the reason I use this expression, anything multiplied zero is zero. So I don't want to do that. You should not do that. So you should never multiply your life with zero, then it becomes zero no matter how much wealth or reputation you build over the years. Okay, so let's look at the envy and let's also hear from um, Charlie Munger and Naval Ravikant what they say about envy.
Envy is such a poisonous emotion because at the end of it, you're no better off. In fact, you're unhappier. And the person you're envious of is still successful or good looking. It's hard to get rid of envy, but the real breakthrough will be the day you realize that all these people that you're envious of, you couldn't just cherry pick and choose little aspects of their life. You couldn't say, I want his body, or I want her money, or I want his personality. You have to be that person completely. Do you want to actually be that person with all of their reactions, their desires, their families, their frustrations, insecurities, and their outlook in life? If you are not willing to do a wholesale 24/7, 100% swap with who that person is, then there's no point in being envious. Once one comes to that realization, envy fades away because you don't want to be anyone else. You can be perfectly happy being who you are.
So when you see it's jealous and envy, so it's like there is a saying, you are killing two birds with a one bullet or whatever. It's a saying. So same way you use the same tool to kill ego, envy, and jealous. Three. Even social comparison. I told you the same tool, right? You don't want to just cherry pick a one characteristic of a person whom you are envy, jealous, egoistic, or social comparison. You have to cherry pick all their life, their parents, their body and everything, then you would realize. So it's a one tool, using that you can kill all these biases. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from Charlie.
The other thing you never want to have is envy. That's the only one of the deadly sins you're never going to have any fun at all.
Yeah,
The other thing you never
he's a bit blunt. He's a straightforward guy. He doesn't twist the message. He always tells it on the face. So he's, I think you listen in, right? So let's hear it again.
want to have is envy. That's the only one of the deadly sins you're never going to have any fun at all.
So he's basically saying that you're not going to have any fun with the envy. So you're better you avoid the envy. So these three biases place the top 3 position in all the psychological biases we are going to discuss. So ego, jealous, and envy. These are the top 3, and you should watch out, and you should always see how you could avoid them. So any questions? Okay.
No.
I don't have anything for the. Do you have any other questions before we close? Anything you want to ask?
No.
Are you discussing this with your friends? Maybe that also helps sometime, but I don't know if your friends are interested in this biases. So they may feel, oh, what alien language you are speaking.
Yeah, most
Yeah,
of my friends are like,
they don't have interest in it. They don't want to hear from it. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't
Like
understand.
I'm talking about my classmates.
I think they'd be interested if I talk about it, if I didn't talk about it.
Yeah, they don't. They're at least in my class, they don't want.
Yeah, in my class, they don't want to hear about it at all.
All they talk about is gaming or I know something, football or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I experienced the same in my own life. I have so many friends. They feel the same, that I am talking some alien language, but it's so useful in my life. So nothing wrong. You feel like that, but it's useful stuff. And I tell my friends that you are falling into this trap. They don't grasp it. They don't understand it. The problem with elders, I don't know if you have observed, is once they started working for some companies, or once they stop learning new things. That's a problem with many elders. And when I tell my friends that I'm learning about the psychological bias, then they say, is it going to you useful in your daily work at office? I said, maybe, may not be. And then they say, why the hell you are doing that? And then I said, it's useful. It's useful for my investing, and it's also useful for me to become a better person. But not everybody looks at things in the same way. They think it's a time, enjoy the life, watch Netflix, and do something, watch cricket for many hours. But yeah, it's all their perspective, right? We can't. Yeah.
But the thing is, they don't even listen to you.
Yeah, that's yeah.
At least some of my classmates, they don't even listen when you want to talk something about this thing. They get bored and they run off, or they do something else.
Yeah, they are also falling into this social behavior, right? If everybody is talking about football, they don't want to talk about something else. They also want to talk about football, or everybody is talking about whatever.
No, but the reason they don't talk about it is because they don't have these classes, so they don't know anything. But we were also probably like this before we started these classes. Most of us were probably not like really interested, but only after we started the classes, because then we knew more about it.
Yeah, that's also another way to look at the things is that maybe they are not aware of this, right? If they understood the value and the importance, probably they start listening. Their parents are not talking about it, their teachers are not talking about it, then they think, what is this thing you are talking about, which nobody talks in my life. They can't see much in YouTube. There are no series in Netflix about this, so why the hell they would talk about it?
Yeah, we only start economics from 9th grade, so not a lot of people know it until higher classes.
Yeah, even if you start economics, they are not going to teach these things. That's another problem. I read some economics books myself, though I never went to business school.
Yeah, they may not talk about psychological and that. They'll just talk about facts and maybe
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would know never going to hear this in your whole education life. These are the things I learned it after I left my college and I left my schooling. I learned this after I came across these people and then realized how they are thinking, whatever they achieved, and then I worked backwards to read their books. And that's the reason biographies and autobiographies are also helpful, that you would find these insights that you can't find it from natural sources of knowledge like Google or classroom environments or friends. Okay, Ayush, you have a question? Yeah.
No, I just
Okay.
did it.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Okay, good. At least I'm here. You can talk with me, and I can share examples. Hopefully, your parents are supporting you. So try to share the concept and see if they can find examples from their life, because they must have at least 30, 40 years of life. So they must have collected stories in their life. So that's the one thing you could do. What I'll do is I'll talk to elderly people, including my grandparents, and try to ask their whatever experiences they went through in their life, and try to find out the patterns based on this human behavior. you know so that's also another way you could extract some stories from your parents, grandparents, telling them, hey, this is a behavior. Did you know anybody who screwed their life because of ego or jealous? They may tell you at least some stories. So you don't need to pee on a fence to learn that it's going to hurt, right? You can learn from others' mistakes. So that the best way to learn from others' mistake is ask parents or elderly people to share their experiences about the life, and with the angle of whatever you're learning, that helps. Okay, with that, I want to conclude this week's session, and we will cover some more session. I want to cover incentives next week. That's biggest driver of the world. Incentives that drives the behavior of the people all around us. So let's talk about incentives next week. Until then, have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
I like today's class a lot.
Yep.
Thank you, Hari.
Bye.
Bye.